Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 62 of the Friday Nightmares podcast.
61. 61.
Is it 61? Shit.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 61 of the Friday Nightmares podcast. On this episode, we are continuing our horror from around the world, and we are going to be talking Swedish horror films. And as always, and with you, as always, is your host, Mr. Smokeshow Crawford, coming to you from the town of Swartz Creek in the county of Genesee, in the state of Michigan, in the United States of America, in the North American continent, in the Western Hemisphere, on the planet Earth, in the Milky Way galaxy, fully faxed, boosted and waxed, and ready to climax. And if you can, please get me wet, feed me after midnight. And I am known as the man that was also known as the man with a glorious beard, but not so glorious beard nowadays. And also, AKA Scott Housen. And with me, as always, is...
just plain old Heather Powell coming to you today from Watertown, Ontario, Canada. I don't have a cool intro like Scotty. If this is your first episode, please go back and listen to where we got to this point.
I don't even remember when.
We never used to be at this point, and then somewhere along the line, a monster was created, and Scott has the longest intro known to man. So it's great though, because everyone knows who Scott is, and he has a billion nicknames, and he's Scotty. I just call him Scotty. But here we are, midsummer heat.
Midsommar.
Oh yeah. That's what Scott and I did when we got together, by the way. We just reenacted that film. Only parts of it, just the burning bear part.
Yeah, I was going to say, she put me in a bear suit and caught me on fire.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine? Fuck that movie.
While she was on shrooms.
While I was on shrooms, yes. It was a really cool experience for me. But here we are, trying to get through some 2022 movies. Good news, everyone. Scott never watched Jurassic World Dominion, so his eyes have been saved, and his hours of his life have been saved. So he claims he eventually wants to see it.
I do.
Someone please talk him out of it besides me, because it's hours of his life he's not going to get back again. And I'm telling you, Scotty, though I did watch Jurassic Park 3 the other night, and it's not as good as I remember. Not that it was ever good, just so we're clear. It was never good, but the graphics weren't as good as I remember. The CGI, I don't know.
Was it CGI? I thought that was still practical effects. It's been a long time since I seen
it. If you watch the movies that made us, Jurassic Park, the first one, it was CGI and practical.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's actually on net. Do you have Netflix?
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually a really good series. It's movies that made us, and it talks from the crew perspective.
Oh, nice.
It's a lot more interesting because of that, to be honest with you. Because you always get the actor's perspective, though. And, like, I don't know, the actors are great, but they're not the ones that really made it happen. They're the ones that showed up and did the acting and stuff. But it's nice hearing what behind the scenes people do, right? And
right.
How they can make it all come together. So I know you've been gaming. I'm worried that I'm going to tell people you're gaming. Then I was going to think we're going to bring back controllers up, cards down. We are not bringing back controllers up, cards down. Scotty can barely commit to this fucking show. So... No way. I'm going to try to get him to commit to another one. But what is the game you were playing right now?
It's an older game. Came out in
Oregon Trail?
Yes.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
No, it's Oregon Trail, where I got dysentery.
Nice. Bringing it back.
But the thing is, like, came out in 2015, but it was free on Steam, and I've been watching a YouTube channel called Neebs Gaming, and they have over 300 videos on this game, and they're like, that's pretty much what I've been watching this entire week, just something dumb and fun, and they're hilarious and kind of create a story while they're playing it. It's a survival game called Ark Survival Evolved, and it's kind of like almost like a futuristic sci-fi type game where this world was created where dinosaurs are roaming the world, but there is also technology, like really high-tech technology in the world and everything like that, and you start off as someone that's got nothing.
So Jurassic World.
Yeah, okay. Pretty much. And I was gonna say, but yeah, you start off with nothing. You wake up and you're in underwear, and you gotta like collect stuff to like build weapons, build clothes, find shelter. The world is like completely dangerous, and you die a lot, but it's a lot of fun. And eventually, you get to tranquilize and tame dinosaurs, and then eventually you can ride them and like have them as your companions and stuff like that. It's fun, and it's like a massive game where people can play on the same world as you, so you can like join a tribe or play with someone else and stuff like that. I could see losing hundreds of hours into the game.
So would you say that it's a land of confusion?
Yes.
Do you play that song in the background while you're playing?
Yes, and I tried to avoid the video because the video is nightmare fuel.
You're like, I remember now. And you're like moving your mouse around trying to like pass the level.
Oh.
Oh man, that'd be fucking amazing. I haven't played any video games as of late. Man, no. Oh wait, I went to do laser tag this week, so this is cute. So we took our friend's daughter to go to laser tag, myself and my friend Anne. I was telling Scotty the story. So she's 6 and her dad plays lots of video games. So there's like a whole bunch of other like preteens and like us, right? So I'm the adult, Anne's the adult. So the kids are shooting us the most, right? You shoot the adult because
Yeah.
that's what you do. But Aurora is leading us through, and I was telling Scott, she would be like, hold up, let me check this room. And she would go into the next room and look around, like duck down with her gun and then go clear. Every new room she would go into. And I was like, Aurora, where did you learn that from? And she was like, Daddy's video games. So just so all your parents know who play video games, your kids are watching and they can apply that knowledge in laser tag. And they even played some like kind of creepy music in this laser tag. Like I was expecting a real rinky-dink piece of shit place because it was $4.50 Tuesdays. So it cost $4.50 for one game, which was about 20 minutes long. Like it was a fairly long game. And usually it's 9. But it was actually really like well kept up. The vests were well kept up. Like the stuff was like the room was really complicated, lots of ramps, lots of places to hide. It was actually fairly impressive.
Nice.
Yeah, and like I remember going to laser tag when I was like 13, 14. I still can't believe that shit's like happening. Like that's still
Right.
the bomb diggity, right? Like it's when that shit came out, it was like super new, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, laser tag is the best!" It was like for all the babies like me who don't like paintball, you go fucking laser tag.
I was just gonna say, laser tag is the painless version of paintball.
It really is, because I'm scared to go to paintball. My friends were doing that at one time, and it hurts. People get bruised and shit.
Oh yeah, I got shot by paintballs by my brother just for fun.
There's only one kind of balls that I want to get shot by. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
five.
Anyway, we're purposely leaving out Scott and I's visit for the intro because we're going to talk about it later on in our What's New. So why don't we get right into our 2022s? And did you watch anything on this list, Scott?
Maybe.
Did you watch one on this list, Scott?
I did. I watched one.
All right, great. So everyone, you're going to get to listen to me talk about 2022 movies for the next 20 minutes. So
I promise the next episode I will be buckling down on 2022s.
promises, Scotty. I have heard these lies before, but you know what? It's okay.
Hey, I am at 61 now out of 2022, so not bad.
Hold on, let me check what I'm at.
Yeah, I'm sure you're
84.
way higher. Yeah, I was gonna say.
But even that's way less than what I was at last year. I know where I'm gonna break what we did last year. There's no way in.
No.
Heck. No way in heck.
No way in heck. What the hell's wrong with you?
No. All of a sudden we're a PG show. So the movie I'm going to talk about today is actually a Canadian film, and it's called Slash Back, and it's an Indigenous film. It says in a remote Arctic community. It's not Arctic. It's Edmonton. Actually, no, it's Manitoba, which is a province in Canada, but that's fine.
Hometown of Kenny Omega.
And they're not Inuit. They're Métis. That's fine. I suspect this was written by an American. Métis girls fight off alien invasion, all while trying to make it to the coolest party in town. That's a really poor synopsis for this fucking film. Who wrote this on Letterboxd? Anyway, don't listen to that synopsis. It's a 87-minute runtime. It has a 3.0 rating on a 3-star rating on Letterboxd. It's actually quite good. One of the reviews here, a lot better than expected. I couldn't agree more. If you like The Thing and you would not mind a little bit of a indigenous twist to it, you're gonna like this movie.
Really?
There was another movie that came out that was a Canadian film that you had seen, and then we recommended to each other back and forth. It was like The Thing, only there was less special effects. It was a group
Yeah.
of people.
It
Do you
was
remember what it's called?
I think it was
Black Mountainside.
Yeah, Black Mountainside, because Taminator from the horror cast recommended it.
Black Mountainside. So this is very similar to that. So if you like The Thing and Black Mountainside, this is going to be right up your fucking alley.
Nice.
The young ladies and the young gentlemen that are in this are incredible. It is very much a Canadian film. It is very much stated that it's in Manitoba, and it is very much stated these are Métis from the Métis community, and they do talk a lot about Indigenous culture. But there's also a creature feature piece. The special effects are quite good. There's some stressful parts of this movie. You really don't know how things are going to end up, and I strongly recommend it. I think it's a great creature feature. I think its 87-minute runtime is perfect. It does have a deeper meaning to it. It is kind of talking about colonization. Like, they do talk about it. They talk about having their land taken, which happened, everybody. That's
right.
What happened. So, but that's not the main focus of it. The main focus is the metaphor of the alien landing and these kids basically having to fight off this alien that can take different shapes and really, really fucked up forms. Like, it's real fucked up. So great film. I recommend renting it. May even be in my top 15, 20 at the end of the year. Might win an award. We'll see. Like, it was a really good film. I really, really enjoyed it. It's available on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Video, Cineplex, YouTube. It's a must watch this year, in my opinion, if you like creature features. If you liked Black Side Mountain, or
Black Mountainside.
Black Mountainside, or obviously I'm not gonna be like, it's just as good as The Thing, but it has the same concept as The Thing, same concept as any kind of creature feature in a remote community. You're gonna enjoy this. And I think it's a really good way that it showcases the Indigenous community in a positive light. And it kind of reflects on some issues without, for all those people that are hypersensitive about it, pushing it down their throat, but also kind of having it there. I really, really enjoyed it, Scotty. Check it out when you get a chance to it. And you can watch it at work. It's in English. Like, they do speak, I can't remember the language that Métis speak, but they do speak in their native tongue here or there, but it's not enough that, you wouldn't be able to follow along with what's going on.
Well, hell, I watched a couple of our Swedish films at work this week, so.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is just, some of the elders obviously speak in, the native language, right?
Yeah.
But, like, it's not enough that you wouldn't be able to catch it and see what's happening. So slash back. I suggested. Nice. I look forward to hearing Scotty's thoughts on it.
Yeah, I will be definitely watching. This will probably be the first one I watch this coming week.
Yeah, it's worth it. I think you'll really like it. It's a really good film. The next one is, to me, one of the better or best Tubi films that have come out so far.
Nice.
Now, yet again, I'm comparing it against other Tubi films. Right?
True. I mean, so most Tubi films, I will say, haven't been horrible. So
no, but this so far has been my favorite. It's called Tow. It's basically about a slasher of a killer tow truck driver. It's an 86-minute runtime with a twist. Two twin sisters must confront their past when their attempted killer re-enters their lives. So these two twin sisters survive a serial killer rampage. You find that out within the first 2 minutes of the movie, and the serial killer is supposed to be put to death, but strange events occur, and there's a twist. Entertaining film. It's a free watch on Tubi. I think that if you're like us and you're a Tubi completist right now that's trying to watch all the different Tubi watches to see which film is the best, it's definitely worth your time. If you enjoy the little bit of a psychological slasher, and again, it's a free watch on Tubi. I think out of all the Tubi movies that have come out, it's the most entertaining, and I've enjoyed it. So yeah, if that sounds like it'd be up your alley, give it a shout. Give it a watch. It's
Toe.
It's 86 minutes in length, so it's not like it's going to overstay its welcome.
86 inches in length. All right.
Oh man, then that'd be like Dave C. Isn't that what Dave C has?
Hey, Junior.
Right. So Black Phone. So The Black Phone. So this is a theatrical release right now. It's a 103-minute runtime. Finley Shaw, a shy but clever 13-year-old boy, is abducted by a sadistic killer and trapped in a soundproof basement where screaming is of little use. When a disconnected phone on the wall begins to ring, Finley discovers that he can hear the voices of the killer's previous victim. So I won't read the rest because the rest is like pretty big spoilers. Anyway, good film. I know that this got moved around a lot. When I went to the theater to see it with George, he said to me, he's like, fuck, I feel like this movie was supposed to come out like 3 years ago. I'm like, yeah, I think it was supposed to come out at least 2 years ago. And he even was like, have we seen this? Because we've seen the trailer so many times.
Right.
Right? It just felt like we had actually watched it. I know Brandon Orlick from the Exploding Heads podcast thought it looked really dumb because of some of the scenes in it. Honestly, I thought it was a pretty good film. I thought the acting was good. I really enjoyed the fact that the son from Sinister and Ethan Hawke were in this movie together.
That's
I
cool.
thought that was cool that they were reunited again and that they had got a chance to work together. Ethan Hawke's very creepy. He's a decent enough actor, I think. Like he's not the best actor in the entire planet, but I think for this film, he played the role well. The kid is very affable. You are definitely rooting for the kid and you want him to make it. So I think that's something. And yeah, I think it's worth a theater watch. I really enjoyed going to the theater to watch this one. I think out of all the theater watches I've seen, The Curse and this one have been the least, like, have been the most appreciative. Like, I enjoyed them the most. Scream 5 was forgettable to me.
What about X?
X was not as good for me as this was.
Okay.
I think X is a great movie. Don't get me wrong.
Because that's gonna give it to you.
Yeah, but I just enjoyed this one more.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that X isn't good. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just have a preference to what you like. But this is definitely worth going to the theater and checking out. That's the only way you can watch it right now. So go watch it. It's good. It's solid.
This is definitely one that I would love to see because I've heard a lot of good things about it. I haven't heard people raving about it like it would be in anybody's top tens, but everyone seems to really enjoy it. And I've heard, the performances are really good. And just the fact that the screenplay was written by Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, I'm like, yeah, I'm all in because I love Joe Hill's stuff. Like he does a great job with like writing, so I can only imagine how the story is.
Oh, the writing's really good. The character development's really good. The act, and it's a perfect length. Like it doesn't overstay its welcome. The length of the film makes sense. I think it's in Lacey Lou's from Cut to the Chase podcast. I think it's in her top 10.
Nice.
She really enjoyed it, but I think everyone who's walked out of it has at least said it's good. Like it's good. It's worth the admission at the theaters. I think it's worth watching. It's a really enjoyable horror film. So I totally recommend it to people. Now, the next one is one that I know you've seen, right?
Yep, this is the one on the list.
All right, so I'll let you do the intro for this one.
All right, so this one is Revealer, which is a Shudder exclusive. And it's basically a story about an exotic dancer who is I'm trying to remember what are those? I think it's like a peep show room or whatever.
Yeah, basically a peep show. It's in the 1980s.
Yeah, based in the 80s, and it's like in a peep show room where her and a religious nutcase that is like so like basically one of the protesting type that'll stand outside of a strip club saying you're going to hell for being a stripper, blah 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 blah. Her and that person both get stuck in this room during basically the end of the world or the end times, as it would be called in like religious texts. And it has like it definitely does the whole like gel lighting of like the 80s, like so purples and reds, and has like the synth score, which by the way they fucking use Gunship's Dark All Day song for while she's dancing, and love it. That was amazing to see it and hear it. I found this to be quite fun and entertaining. Like I wouldn't say it's like amazing, but because some of the dialogue and acting was kind of a little bit
hit or miss,
yeah, but it was still fun. It was definitely an isolated horror film where you don't really know what exactly is going on outside, just that a lot of bad shit has happened, and like you kind of get a reveal of things like basically Asmodeus, one of the demons of the apocalypse, is there and like basically just killing off everything and causing the world to end. And like I do love the one thing I do love is the interaction between the dancer and the religious person, and how like they will fight and argue, but then they will like talk, and like you start seeing like a bond kind of form between them from being stuck with each other for so long.
Yeah, their relationship is really good. I think that is the best part of this film. I also liked how the dancer was like a normal body shape. That was nice to finally see in a film. And I thought that their dialogue back and forth, and they carried the film quite well. It's a low budget film, so no, adjust your expectations going into this. But they used the set well. They
Yeah, they
really
do.
did use their sets well, and they did make it creepy enough. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really, really good film.
Yeah, I know Tim Davis from the Horror for Dummies really loved it. Because he compared it to We Need to Do Something, which I can see the comparison. He just liked this one more, which I definitely love We Need to Do Something more, but I can see why he compared the two.
I can see why they're in the same boat too, right? Like I
Yeah.
can see, someone who is an amateur filmmaker, or you're making a film on a lower budget and you want to see something, again, low budget done right. This is low budget done right. Again, we say this over and over again, is that there are certain films that know what they're working with and they save their money for the effects that make sense. And, if you can limit your set use, limit your amount of actors, and just rely on their relationship building with each other. This was great. Like, this was basically like watching a stage play, to be quite honest.
Yeah, really was.
And I thought they did a really good job of it. I think it's worth it for Shudder. I'm glad Shudder picked it up. It's an 86-minute runtime. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Do I think it's going to be in people's top 10? I don't know. It depends on the person. I enjoyed it. I would definitely say, got Shudder, check it out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I could see it being on like certain people we know's possible top 10, or at least in their top 20. Like I think I gave it like a 7.5. Like it was really good, but like it wasn't like that great to be in my top 10. Like it might be in the top 10 just because this year hasn't been the best. But
yeah, we'll see what happens. We still got, we got some Don't Worry Darlings coming out, and that shit looks lit. I saw a preview for that, and it looks fucking awesome. So
then
yeah,
we have Nope coming out soon too.
And Nope, I'm not sure about Nope. I'll watch it because I love Jordan Peele, but
the trailers haven't really blown me away.
No, but we'll see, right? That doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Maybe it's a really good, enjoyable movie or not. But yeah, check it out if you got the Shuddy. Also, it's on AMC and AMC Plus and AMC Plus Amazon channel. It's definitely worth your time. So another Shudder release that just came out this week on the third day. So this is an Argentinian film. It's an 85-minute runtime, though it's only dubbed in English. Hell is coming. Cecilia and her son embarked on a journey. On the third day, she's found wandering alone, not remembering what happened during this time. She is depressed and looking for her son. So I'm not going to read any more because it's fake spoilers, actually. This is very much a religion zealous film and makes you question what is real and not real. It was not my thing. Now, It reminded me very much of a Giallo at parts of how it was filmed. I felt like I was watching a Giallo at times. And
is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, I don't love Giallos. So
okay, yeah, that's
right?
true.
But that doesn't mean, yet again, as we all know on this show, I can step back from a film and go, even if it wasn't for me, is it a well-made film?
Right.
This is a well-made film. It's obviously high quality writing, high quality money. It's interesting enough. It just wasn't for me. Maybe someone else would watch this and really, really enjoy it. But it was not my thing. I would say if you like religious horror and that's definitely your thing, then you might like this a little bit more. I found the story rather confusing. I didn't really quite get what's going on most of the time. I found that it was trying to do too much, but that was just my perspective. Someone else might have a different perspective on it. It is available on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, AMC Plus Amazon, and then Amazon, the Shudder Amazon channel, but also I watched it on Shudder, regular Shudder. So it is available on Shudder as well.
Not on Kid Shudder though?
Not a kid Shudder, no. And even though there's a kid in it, you would think maybe Black Phone will be when it comes out. That will go on Kids Shudder for sure. Good Stranger Danger movie, right? Now, finally, the last film. So we can go to. Oh man, I'm still talking for the next little bit. Fuck. Okay.
I'll be joining you on the next one because
Yeah. Oh, you'll talk about older films?
Well, about the one you watched.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we'll talk about. Anyway. I think I know who I would have gone back to in the 70s. All right, The Summoned. So this is a 2022 release. It's an 86-minute runtime. Two high-profile couples are forced to examine the cost of their success when they're invited to an exclusive self-help retreat where their ancestors, blah, 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 where their ancestors have gone upon generations. And I'll leave it at that. Wow, this film. I went into it expecting one thing and got another thing. I really fucking enjoyed this film.
Really?
This was right up my alley. This was a Heather film. So this film starts off with you just think it's a bunch of people going to a self-help retreat, and it ends up becoming something a little bit more deeper, religious, and complicated. I thought it was extremely well done, and I really, really enjoyed it. That being said, this may not be for everybody. I have a feeling Brandon will like it. I think you will like it. But I don't know who else to predict will like it. I think Tim Davis will be neutral on it. I don't know how Dave C will feel. I think he'll also be neutral on it. And Sandra Kane, because I'm trying to think of the people that we talk to the most about films, will enjoy it. And I don't know about Lance. Lance is a wild card on that.
He's totally is a wild card.
I don't know how he'll think, but I know you and Brandon will enjoy it. It's just a really good it's lower budget but not super low budget, well acted, well written film. I really do recommend for anyone who likes kind of cultish or religious sort of like like mindfuck horror. This is definitely one for you.
Nice.
It is available on Vudu, Google Play, Microsoft Store, Redbox, and Amazon Video. And honestly, it's worth any money that you pay for it. If that sounds like your thing, always again, if that sounds like your thing. So this time around, the films that we watched, I actually liked all of them enough. Like On the Third Day just wasn't for me, but it's a quality film.
Yeah, me too. I liked all the ones I watched.
You watched one. You watched one.
That was a lot of work, Heather.
You know, Scott, I'm really glad that you continue to watch. Yeah, I bet you Lance isn't even going to ask you anymore about 2022 releases. I've literally watched 20-something more movies than you have.
I'm sorry that I carry the weight of the movie watched on my shoulders.
Yeah. You know, not all, like, maybe if your fucking intro wasn't so long, you would have more time to watch a movie.
I mean, but the intro is the most important. That's what people come here for.
You're probably not wrong, Scott. That probably is what people come here for. You're right. So
what they do is they listen to the intro, they listen to both of our intros and go, all right, that's all we needed. And then they stop.
So just to retrack, I'm just going to go over the 2022s and where you can find them. Slashback is available on iTunes, Google, Amazon, Cineplex, and YouTube. Toe is a free watch on Tubi. Black Phone is available only in theaters. The Revealer is available on AMC and Shudder. On the Third Day is available on Amazon, iTunes, and Shudder. And The Summons is available for rent on Google, Vudu, Microsoft Store, Amazon, and Redbox. So if you're interested in any of those, that's where you can find them. Now for our older films, oh my god, I watched the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and man, I could go back in time and have Donald Sutherland body snatch me in 1978, and I'd be just fucking fine. Like, honestly, what a good film, though. All my creepiness on Donald Sutherland aside, and Jeff Goldblum's in this one.
Yes,
I didn't know that. He's great. He's so fucking awkward and weird. Like, he's so great. Like, he always plays the weirdest characters.
Well, I'll say, especially back then, he'd play always just kind of awkward way he talked and everything. And now, he's I think he embraces the ideology of I am Jeff Goldblum and everybody loves me, and he just embraces it. And I love it.
Yeah, he's great in this film. I really fucking dug it. Like, the whole buildup around what's going on, the fact that it's the health department people that are figuring out that something's not right, and the slowly but surely disintegration of the human race being snatched up. And of course, the end when she realizes she's alone, she's lost her best friend, basically Donald Sutherland.
And that iconic scene of
right? Man,
so good.
So fucking good. What a good fucking film.
This is in the top 5 best remakes ever. I fucking love this movie. And that's not taken away from the original from the 50s. That one is fucking excellent too. But yeah, this one was just absolutely incredible. I love the acting in it is freaking amazing. And you just don't know who is who is one of the snatchers at first, one of the body snatched at first. It's a very good mystery of and it's great sci-fi horror.
Great sci-fi horror. No, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I besides Donald Sutherland, who I thoroughly enjoyed as well, but I just think he's so handsome. I don't know. He's just such a good looking man during that time, and he's super tall. I don't know.
I mean, hell, even in his
Right.
old age, he still looks damn good.
He is. He's a good looking man, and his voice is very iconic, right?
Yeah.
So, great film. Glad I finally got around to watching it. I think I'll watch the 1950s version. Have you watched the 90s or the 2000s version?
Yes, not the 2000s version, but I've watched now the 50s, this one, and the 90s version. The 90s version was directed by Abel Ferreira and stars Jennifer Tilly's lesser known sister, Megan Tilly.
How is she?
She's good at it. It's definitely more it's a little more cheesy, like, but at the same time, like, it's still like very creepy, a little more nudity like than even in like this one, because I know there's just a little bit of nudity in this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the funny thing is the 90s version is the first version of this story that I'd seen. Like,
Oh, really?
my stepdad had brought home the VHS of it, and back then, he just brought VHS home of horror. I threw it in just to watch it, and I really enjoyed it. And it's kind of funny. The very first episode of that I joined the Horror Drunks podcast, when at first I was a guest and then just kind of joined. But the very first episode I ever did with them was on horror remakes, and we did Cat People, Toolbox Murders, and then that 90s version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that was the last time I had watched it, but I also kind of had this fond memory because I'm like, hey, that's when I started podcasting for the very first time.
Oh, when you were like a virgin.
Yeah, and like back when I would go through detail, like step by step detail of what went on in the movie, and it took forever to go through it because I like basically just read you the whole entire movie.
Oh my god! Thank God you don't fucking do that anymore.
That's why I don't take notes, because I don't know how to take notes. I just write the whole movie down.
Here's the thing: we don't need to take notes, Scott. We go like, yeah, we like this thing because it was good.
Exactly.
That's how we talk. We don't make this shit complicated.
But yeah, I definitely think you would. I think you would like the 90s version. I just don't think you would like it nearly as much as the 50s or this one.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, I'm glad I finally got around to watching it. I threw it on Friday afternoon. After I managed to get through the stuff I had to do for Slumber Party Massacre, including the 4 fucking Prom Night franchise films, which 3 and 4, just a fucking chore to watch.
My condolences.
Oh my god, thank God that I don't have to do that again anytime soon. But anyway, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really great movie, so I'm glad I got to finally check it out, and it's nice to add to my 70 films roster as well, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what's new? We are going to talk about. So I went to Michigan about a week and a half ago now. I crossed over the border to USA,
America.
And I went and stayed with Scotty for a couple of days, and we went to AEW. So the night before we went, we had a nice little bonfire. I got reconnected with Scott's roommate, Tim, and his girlfriend, Veronica. I got to meet her for the first time. And one of Scott's friends came over, and we had a nice little bonfire, and I had pizza.
Drinks.
Yeah, I had some pizza from my favorite pizza place. It's near Scott's place. And we went back to the grocery store that Scott had took me to so many moons ago, where like alcohol's everywhere and super cheap. God bless America. God bless the United States. But then, let's get to the fun thing. We went to AEW, but we almost had a Final Destination moment.
Oh my God.
On the highway. So Scott, why don't you tell everyone how you're a hero?
All right. So yeah, just to let everybody know, this AEW took place at the Little Caesars Arena out in Detroit. So I knew traffic was going to be insane. So we left early, especially because if we get out there at 5 o'clock traffic, it's going to be bumper to bumper and it's going to be a pain in the ass. So I figured, let's leave around 3:30, get out there exactly at 5. We can go find some place to eat. Well, while we're driving out there, thank God for Heather, who kind of noticed us because, yeah, this is, I think we were near 7 Mile exit.
Yeah.
And, just driving the expressway speed, so like 70 miles an hour, had a semi-truck on the side of me, and then there was a car in front of me that Heather thankfully noticed had slammed on its brakes because it had no tail lights or brake lights that I noticed.
Oh man, it was not safe for the road.
Yeah, and we were about to slam into the rear end of that car, like, because I had no idea. Like, so my instincts just said, fuck, I can't hit the brakes fast enough. I'm either going to swerve or I'm either going to hit him, or I got to swerve and hope to God I don't hit the semi-truck. Thankfully, the semi-truck must have seen what was going on because he slowed down enough to where when I cut that wheel, like, I have never had this fast of a reaction before. And then when I cut that wheel, we somehow avoided that car and somehow got in front of the truck without any issue. But holy shit, my heart was a fucking racing.
Yeah, it was stressful, but Scott handled it like a boss.
Yeah, that was an intense moment. But then, yeah, thankfully we got to the event safe and sound. Found ourselves a really close parking garage, like right next to the event, which was awesome.
Yeah, and I learned so I've never been to an American arena before. So in Canada, we have arenas. The big one that's near me is the Air Canada Center. And when you go, they search your purse and stuff for like alcohol. Maybe they're looking for a knife or something, maybe. But it's usually outside food or drink they're worried about you bringing in. I couldn't even bring a fucking purse into Little Caesars Arena.
Nope.
They made me put it back in the car. The only thing I was allowed to bring in was my cell phone. I had to remove all of my fucking jewelry, all of it, and I had rings and a necklace and a bunch of other shit on to go through metal detectors.
Welcome to America.
And I have never experienced that in my life. Scott was not allowed to go back outside and have a cigarette.
Which I thought that was dumb.
From 7 till midnight, unable to go out and have a cigarette.
Which, not the end of the world, but still I thought it was kind of dumb.
And turns out that they don't accept cash, just card.
Yeah, so we had needless to say, there was a lot of just kind of bumps along the road when we were there. Because the first, besides the car incident, the first true incident I realized this was going to be one of those days was when we got to the parking garage. It was $20 to park. And I got cars behind me, and I'm going to use, and it's only accepting cards. So I'm going to use my card. It's getting declined, even though I have $300 cash in my account sitting there. And it kept declining my card. And thankfully, Heather had her card and she was able to pay for it. And we got in there. But then going inside, I'm like, yeah, I got cash on me. I'm going to use that to buy a shirt, buy some booze, buy some food or whatever we need. Well, actually, first, before we even went inside the event, we did go to an amazing Vietnamese restaurant called Pho Lucky. And I got to try pho for the first time. And I loved it, minus the mint leaves. Next time I will ask for no mint leaves. I was not a fan of the hint of mint in it. But everything else was amazing. And then when we were in the event, as Heather said, they only accepted card there, so they would not take my cash for anything. And I'm like, fuck, my card was declined at the parking garage. Let's see if it works here. Nope, it was being declined there too. I'm like, motherfucker. So thankfully they had this cash into card kiosk, and I was able to put money into it, and they gave me a little card I could use, and was able to buy a cool Blood and Guts shirt and buy some food and drink or whatever. But that was the mess for me. There was also a little bit of a disaster for you.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to buy a drink, and they're like, "Can we see your ID?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Lady scans my ID. She's like, "I can't accept this. It's expired." I'm like, "What?" So I look at my license, and I guess with COVID and everything else that's been going on, I didn't realize that my license had expired in April. And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm 39." She's like, "I can't sell you this, ma'am." I'm like, "Okay, you think I got a fake ID and it's expired, and I'm faking that I'm 39 years old? Okay, that's fine, I guess." So I guess this was I had picked up the drink myself. I'm like, "Well, I'll put this back." She's like, "I will put it back for you." I'm like, "Okay, you don't need to make a scene. This is what do you think I'm going to do? Run out with a $14 cider around Little Caesars Arena?" So Scotty was nice enough to buy a drink for me, we were all of a sudden fucking children again.
I know,
and then
I couldn't even buy the drink there because the lady was watching you and me once you came up to me, and she and we're like, yeah, she's gonna give me a hard time thinking I'm buying it for you now. So we had to go to a different booth.
It was ridiculous. Honestly, this woman was just being and it's funny, anyone I told the story to, they're like, "But it was just expired by 2 months."
Yeah.
She really thought that you weren't of age. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what her problem was.
I think it's because of the scanning part. I think that may be the issue, is that it has to be scanned and approved through the computer.
Maybe.
I think that's the only reason. I'm not sure, but it's still stupid.
But they wouldn't be able to scan it because it's an Ontario ID.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, it didn't matter. It was fine. It all worked out. But I was more fuck, my license is expired. I just drove to fucking the United States. So that was more my concern. So I renewed it while we watched AEW. But the matches were, once we got to our seats and we got seated down, though the guy in front of us must have ate 18 meals.
Oh my God, he had so much food. And he's just the skinny dude. He's just devouring so much food.
Nachos, chicken fingers, it was all night. He was just eating. But yeah, it was fun. We had really great seats, and we got to see, obviously, Dynamite for all the wrestling fans. We watched Blood and Guts. We got to see the epic cage match.
Incredible.
Crazy, because we were also bird's eye view, so we could see when they were right on top of the cage, which was sick. And then we got to watch Rampage.
Yeah.
So that was really, really fun too. We were actually there we were in Detroit from about 4:30 till just after midnight, Scotty, like 12:30.
Yeah, I'll say I think we got to my car by about 12:15.
Yeah, like it was a really solid, fun day. We had a really, really, really great time. And wrestling was a blast. Scott took so many pictures. He just had
Yeah,
such a good time.
Yeah, because it was my first true wrestling live event, and I was like a fucking giddy little kid. I literally had. I'm glad we did not record a podcast that weekend because I had no voice. Like it was like very scratchy. It was almost sounded like I was going through puberty. Like I could barely even talk, but that's because I was screaming and singing along to all the entrance music and but yeah, I got to see a lot of our favorites, like at least for me, a lot of my favorites, like Orange Cassidy, fucking Danhausen, which got a huge fucking pop because he's from Detroit.
Hometown boy.
And then of course we got to see the Blood and Guts match, which was just so, if you have not seen it, it is so freaking violent and just amazing, like incredible. It was so much fun.
And it's horror adjacent enough. They're in a steel cage beating the fuck out of each other for like an hour. Obviously not really beating each other, but doing stunts in this cage for an hour. It was pretty intense. It must be nice to be real fans like you and I, not like Tim Davis, who doesn't go to AEW events, but has a wrestling podcast.
Rub that salt in his wound because he's mad that AEW has not come there yet.
When AEW hasn't come to Canada either, so it's only because I drove down to Detroit to go see it. But honestly, thoughts out to Tim, man. He's dealing with some flooding. Tim, we're thinking of you. That fucking sucks, and I hope things improve.
Yeah.
And listen to Horror for Dummies. Tim's a really good dude, so is Daniel, and
they're
good
sexy
guys,
boys.
Good guys to support. As much as I tease Tim, he's a very nice person. So thinking of you, Tim. Hope things improve. I'm glad you made it down here for this because, like I said, that was like my birthday gift to you was getting that ticket, and glad it all worked out. And it was just so much fun having you here because it's been so long. It's been a while.
So I'm glad that you were able to make it, and like it was just such a great time. Like in that wrestling event. Couldn't have asked for better company for it. Like it was just incredible, and being like how huge AEW nerds we are, it was just fun for us to get all excited for all the wrestlers that were coming out. And it was, and for being a AEW Dynamite, it almost felt like a pay-per-view.
I would agree. They really did it up for Detroit, and I think that's because they want to come back there.
Yes.
And Tony Khan basically gave the audience many, many hand jobs and told Detroit how amazing they were a bunch of times. And probably my favorite line is when Christian Cage came out and said that the only thing that Detroit had going for it was that it was near Canada.
Yes.
And I cheered. I was probably one of the few Canadians in the audience, and we were cheering for our hometown hero, Christian Cage from Toronto, Ontario. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a really good time, Scotty. It's always nice to be back to visit you. We went to Hot Topic and we went to Lunchbox, which is a store that's like Hot Topic, and we just got to hang out. And it's funny because when Scott and I hang out, I think a lot of people assume we talk about the podcast or we talk about horror movies. We actually really don't.
No.
Like we have a lot of other things that we talk about, like I don't know, life, music.
That's because we're best friends. The podcast is just something that we do.
Yeah, we don't talk shop that much. We definitely don't waste our time. And like we watched an episode of the Chucky series, which I was like, oh fuck, this is filmed in Toronto. When I saw the GO train go by in one of the scenes, but yeah, like we don't really. In the winter, maybe we'll watch the horror movie. I think when you came up here for my birthday, we did watch Shaun of the Dead.
Yep.
And I think
Choose or Die.
Choose or Die the first night. So we have watched horror movies because the weather's shitty and we can't sit outside and we can't do like other things. But generally speaking, we don't really spend a lot of our time, especially when we had something big like AEW that we were going to.
Yeah.
We're not gonna and having the bonfire and getting caught up with everybody. That was a lot of fun. Like Scott and I will pick that any day over fucking sitting around and talking about Friday Nightmares.
Oh, absolutely.
If other people come up to visit us, Brandon, then yeah, it'll probably be the same thing. I can't see us ever sitting around and just being like, oh man, podcasting.
Right. No, it's just because I can see if it's just like we weren't actual close friends. Like we became friends through just podcasting or whatever. Then I could see us just talking about it. But we were friends before we even started this.
Yeah, we were. And like, I don't know, it's just like part of something that we do together. And it's like how we hang out with each other more than anything else, right? It's not really work. And I think that's why we've been able to maintain it when other stuff has been challenging to maintain, because it really is a social time. But yeah, it was really nice to get together, do the AEW stuff. And, hopefully Scott will come up here in August. Hopefully we'll have some stuff going on with another friend that's coming up to stay in August. And then we got Scotty's birthday. Yeah, Brandon. We'll see if he actually pulls through. He's talked about wanting to visit Canada, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it. So, and then hopefully maybe for your birthday, Scotty, we'll have to figure out in October what we're going to do.
And then possibly September for you coming here for possibly Ice 9 Kills.
Yeah, like we've actually done a pretty good job. We usually see each other. I was thinking about this. So since borders have officially reopened, which they reopened last summer, we've seen each other in September, December, April, June. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good for getting together. We're like driving to Scotty was about a 4-hour drive. The American border was dead. No one was there. Coming back was a little bit of a nightmare because a lot of Americans were coming over for the long weekend. Because it was Canada Day on the Friday and Independence Day on the 4th. So a lot of people had long weekends. So the drive home took me 6.5 hours, and plus I had to pick up my dog in that time too, which is a drive. And I don't know, how long has it actually taken you when you come to see me?
Roughly about 4 hours.
About 4 hours. So it's a drive. It's not something that Scott and I do like every other weekend. It's definitely every couple of months we do it. And in the warm weather, it's easier. You're not dealing with weather and stuff like that, though.
Yeah.
When we have driven out to see each other, the weather has been fine. We haven't had to
thankfully
about, any issues. So, it'd be nice to get a couple more visits in before the weather changes, because then you never know. We may not get together all of winter because the roads are too shitty or whatever.
Right.
It is. Hashtag living in the north, huh?
Yeah, no shit.
Anyway, we will take a brief break to hear from one of our many Legion podcast friends. And after we're back, we're going to talk about some Swedish horror.
Derby, got the chicken in the pot.
So after these messages, we'll be right back.
Cha-cha.
This is a test of the emergency podcasting system. Listen to the Psychosemantic Podcast. Politics, movies, and political movies. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, legionpodcasts.com. The Psychosemantic Podcast.
And welcome back as we continue our tour around the world. The cheapest tour you can ever have around the world is right here on Friday Nightmare with our international horror, which, let me tell you, I don't talk about horror movie stuff a lot, but now when I do, I'll be like, well, I've been watching a lot of international films, and I totally Scott took off his headphones. You didn't hear me.
Sorry, repeat that.
That's okay. That's okay. I said, now that we've been doing a lot of international horror, I do a lot of when I do talk about what we're watching, I'll be like, well, I'm currently watching a lot of international films, and I've been really exploring what there is out there. Like I'm some kind of fucking big deal because I watched these movies.
You are a big deal.
Oh yeah, huge.
But at the same time, that's kind of why I loved this topic idea from Don and Ellie, because it's a way for us to watch all these films that are from other countries that we may not have seen before.
Right? It is pretty epic. So anyway, this time we're doing Swedish horror. So these are films that were, from Sweden.
No.
So I'll get Scotty to start with the first one.
All right. So our first film for the Swedish horror theme is called Wither, released August 9th, 2012. Ida and Albin travel to a cabin in the Swedish woodlands for a holiday with friends, but something waits for them under the floorboards. So, do you like Evil Dead? Because if so, you are basically watching the Swedish version of Evil Dead.
Yeah,
I would say just not as good in my opinion. I mean, it's still good.
Oh, yeah, it's a good film though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because oh my god, everything about this screams Evil Dead. Friends going to a cabin in the woods, well, a house in the woods, something underneath in the cellar that will be taking possession of people and possessing all of the friends, even to the point to where the Ida and Albin has to kill his possessed girlfriend or wife.
Yeah.
Not Ash Campbell at all. In fact, so Ash Campbell, he goes out to a tool shed, and I was waiting for him to chop off his hand, put on a chainsaw, and say groovy.
Yeah, it was definitely a inspired film, but I'll be honest, I really liked it a lot. And I don't think it's a better film, but I liked it more than Evil Dead. And the reason why, because I like the Evil Dead remake more than the original Evil Dead as well. I just like the updated version of it. That's why. It's not like objectively, Evil Dead is definitely like the original film for sure. Like this is I guess it's a ripoff, yeah. But I thought it was cool. I thought the creature that ended up being exposed in this was really cool. I thought when they got infected and the whole like blood coming out from everywhere, and then how the eyes turn almost like this white vampire-ish, and like that they bite you and then you turn, and how everyone starts slowly turning, and then you got that, you know, character that comes in that's like, I was here earlier and my wife and my daughter were turned and I had to kill them. Like I really enjoyed this movie for the runtime it was and the special effects that were in it. It was gory and great. I cared about the characters, even that asshole that goes off with the girl that he's supposedly interested in, but he banged that other chick and he kind of gets his comeuppance at the end. I thought it was a lot of fun. It has a 2.6 rating on the Letterboxd, and it's a free watch on Tubi. And I would say to people, like, you enjoy splatter horror, like it even says splatter horror at the beginning of it, then you'll like this film. It's a splatter horror film.
Yeah, because it's very violent, has some really cool practical effects. And yeah, like you said about the eye turning, that is one thing I did love about how you could tell when these people get infected, because you see their eyes roll up into their head, and then you see just like this white with like a light blue pupil, and it looks creepy, and it's extremely violent. The only thing it didn't take away from the film, but the only thing I really didn't like about it was they had some type of filter on it, like the entire movie. That made it, I guess, try to make it look older, I'm guessing, but it just didn't work. It just seemed off because of it. But like, you know, that's just like a minor complaint. But no, like I did, like you said, I liked all the characters. Like, you felt for everybody. I was actually very shocked who the first person got turned, because she seemed like the sweetest one of them all. And was
they killed off the nice one right away.
Yeah, and like I thought like it was definitely balls to the wall, splatter flick. It was definitely like I said, it is Evil Dead, but for the Swedish version of it, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing,
right? I think that if you know that going into it, like if you're going to be super offended that this is like an Evil Dead theme, then don't watch this movie. But like I feel like there's probably something about Swedish subculture and lore in terms of the creature and in terms of why the creature was there. I just don't think we caught on to it. And you know, basically the dad that was there previously with the family where the mother and daughter returned, and then he goes back and he's trying to warn them and protect them, and then he gets bit and he kills himself. There's one survivor at the end, and basically he becomes the new protector. You know, he's basically watching over this house to make sure nobody goes to it, though people seem to go up to it and get called down to the basement all the time, and that's where they get possessed. Like this is a simple 95-minute runtime that is gory, that is fun, and honestly, I wish I kind of got whether there was more Swedish cultural folklore to this, but it was just a gore fun time. Like, it's on Tubi for free. Check it out. It's fun.
Yeah, it's an easy watch, and I do have to say though, you know, if I went into a cabin like this for like, you know, a weekend, and like it looked the way it did, because it didn't look like totally run down like the Evil Dead cabin did, but it did definitely have like it did definitely look abandoned, and but if I seen a cellar that had like the floorboard to a cellar, I'm not gonna go down there unless that was where you had to go down there to turn the water on or anything like that, because there's no point in going down to the cellar, and why would you want to go down there in the first place? That's just creepy.
Yeah, you know what? It's a movie of poor decisions. So I think your typical like trope of like cabin in the woods, man is a house, and you don't even clearly get how they got to this house. The dad of the one kid somehow found it for them, and you got like the cliche characters. But I don't know. It's a fucking bore time.
Yeah.
You want to see some special effects and some blood? This is the movie for you.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, because you could nitpick things from this, but there's no point. It's just sit down, just enjoy it, because you could even nitpick the Evil Dead. Like just gotta sit down and have fun. It's just a gory, violent bloodbath that is entertaining.
Like Swedish Evil Dead, only minus like certain Evil Dead isms. Like there's no book in it or anything like that. It's a creature.
Yeah.
Then fuck, you're fine. Like honestly, like it is what it is. There's not much to unpack here. Maybe there was some Swedish subtext to it, but I don't think Scott and I caught on to it. There was only one film here that really lived, that was following a folklore. We'll probably have a little bit more to talk about with the folklore when we get to that film. But yeah, fun fucking bloodfest. Great movie. Watch it. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely recommend. It is very entertaining.
So let's move to our next one. This one was completely different.
Yeah, this one definitely was a different style and very interesting.
Yes.
But that film is called Thelma, which was released September 15th, 2017. A college student starts to experience extreme seizures while studying at a university in Oslo, Norway. She soon learns that the violent episodes are a symptom of inexplicable and often dangerous supernatural abilities. Basically, this is a very interesting, in-depth character study of someone that is repressed because of religion and very zealous religious parents. Who is questioning her sexual orientation and is kind of afraid of the feelings that she is feeling towards another woman.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that because I didn't expect that, but yeah, because of that, like it definitely shows being raised by super religious parents that force you, like she, to the point where she's thinking these are evil thoughts that she's having and stuff like that, and like she doesn't even drink because of or she's ashamed to admit she drinks or had a drink because of her religion and being how she was brought up and how upset her parents would be. Very interesting.
And the twist that comes with it of why they did that at the end is very interesting. This is a movie that you need. It's an almost a 2-hour long film, and I'm going to put it out there right now. This is extremely well acted. This actually was nominated for Best Foreign Film for an Academy Award in 2017.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it deserves it.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Now, if you watch Withered and you're on a high from a fast-paced gore fest, Thelma may not be the one that you should watch right afterwards.
No. Because it's a very slow burn.
It is a slow film. The first hour, you're learning about her and her relationship with this girl that she has feelings for, relationship with her and her parents, and seizures that she's having. And you're trying to kind of map how all of them are connected to each other. The second half of the film, you realize that you kind of get the idea that she has psychic abilities in the first bit, but then you realize that her psychosis abilities have led to the disappearance and death of her infant brother when she was a child. So I think that part, when that comes in, because whenever she gets upset and somebody hurts her, she goes into a seizure and that person disappears.
Yep. And then you learn that not only can she make people just like randomly disappear like that, but she can also pretty much, if there is something that she truly like wants, she can make it happen.
So her dad tells her, so the first hour is relationship building. She's at school. She's, socially awkward. She befriends this girl. It develops into more than a friendship. Throughout this, she's having seizures. She's going to get checked out. There's these awkward conversations. Her parents seem very overprotective. Her mom calls all the time. You find out later that when she was a little girl, she made once her infant brother disappear from the table and then appear underneath a couch. And then she made him disappear from the bathtub and reappear underneath the ice, and he died. And at the beginning of the film, you see her dad taking her out hunting, and he puts a gun to her head, but he doesn't fire. So you already know that something's happened to make the dad angry. So you see the infant son die. In the meantime, she's become upset with this girl that something happened at a party. She's been pushed against her religious beliefs that, homosexuality is wrong. she gets upset and this girl disappears. Her parents find out and they, are like, it's happening all over again. We need to prevent her from doing this. She finds out that her grandmother had psychic powers and the same thing happened. So I really find that this film is not built so much on jump scares or anything like that. It's the horror that this person has these abilities and she's not able to control them.
Yeah. And
Right?
it's just it is more like I would call this a psychological, supernatural-ish horror.
And I do believe that the implementation of the religious piece, which I do think was trying to talk about culture, was to keep her controlled. Because the father says a line that when Jesus found you, you stopped.
Yeah.
Like, you stopped making these things happen. And they don't want her to drink because they don't ever want her to lose control. They want her to be able to be in control of herself. Now, the ending, Scott, I wanted to talk to you about. So this is a spoiler. We all know we spoil movies in this section. So she goes back. Her parents realize that she made this girl disappear. Her parents drug her, and she believes that she will have the same fate that her grandmother did. She's going to get locked in a home. She kills her dad.
Yep.
He goes out on a boat. She sets him on fire with her mind, and he dies. With her mother, because she's the one that's basically saying to the father before he goes out on the boat, you know what you're going to have to do here. Basically saying, like, we're going to have to kill her. That's what the impression I got. But the father didn't want to kill her, but the mother was like, no, we're going to not have a choice soon. Did you get that too?
I kind of got that same feeling.
Okay. So then there's a scene.
Or they were going to commit her like they did her grandmother.
It was one or the other, right? And then, so she's leaving and she touches her mom's face and then she removes, so her mom's confined to a wheelchair because when the baby died, her mom tried to kill herself. She wasn't successful. She jumped off a bridge. She's paralyzed. So Thelma removes her wheelchair and the mother's just standing there and Thelma leaves her. So I read on Wikipedia that Thelma gave her the ability to walk.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was torturing her and was like, no, now I'm not going to leave you with your wheelchair and you're going to stay here and die. What should, like, I don't know now.
Yeah, I took it as she gave her mother the ability to stand and walk again.
But why kill her dad? Because I guess her dad burned her hand that time over the candle.
Yeah, because her dad seemed to be her mother. I'm thinking she just didn't know, like, her mother was the reasoning behind why her dad did the things he did. And I think she just sees her dad as basically being the aggressor in that situation. So that's why she got rid of him. Not realizing that her mom was basically being like, you need to do this. You need to do, like, being the one to say, like, because, like, I think she just seen it as her father was the one that was always trying to harm her and punish her, where the mother really didn't. The mother was more concerned to her face.
Okay. And I guess the father does make that line of, that girl never really loved you. You forced her to love you with your mind.
Yes.
And maybe that hurt her like it would hurt anybody's feelings. Yeah, good point, Scotty. I wanted to talk about that ending with you because I was really like, did she just leave her there to die? And then when I read Wikipedia and I'm like, oh, they're saying that she gave her the ability to walk. So I'm glad that you kind of pointed that out because I wasn't quite sure what the end of that. Anyway, and of course her friend comes back.
Yep, she wills her friend back to life.
Right. So it's a very, very interesting film. I wouldn't say it's a traditional horror film.
No.
It's definitely more supernatural thriller, but it's a great watch. Just be prepared for a 2-hour detailed, like, this is not a movie that you can walk away from, come back to. Like, you got to be focused on it. I watched it while I was on the treadmill over 2 days. And like, you really have to be focused because there's a lot of layers to this film.
Oh, there absolutely is. Like, but it is definitely worth the watch if this sounds like your type of film.
I wasn't sure about the Finnish piece of it. I think this more focused on religion and, Oh,
you mean the Swedish piece of it?
Sorry. Yeah, Swedish piece of it. Sorry. I think it just focused more like on religion and cultural expectations and stuff like that and more supernatural.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. Really, really enjoyable. And hey, it was a nominee for Best Foreign Film for an Academy Award. So it definitely, the acting was up there.
Yeah, the acting in this was incredible.
Really, really good. And the next one, I do think has more of a folklore to it. So I'll let Scotty bring that one in.
All right. So the next one is also pretty close to a 2-hour runtime, but we will get into that one. It is called Border, released August 31st, 2018. Customs Officer Tina is known for her extraordinary sense of smell. It's almost as if she can sniff out the guilt on anyone hiding something. But when Vore, a suspicious-looking man, walks past her, her abilities are challenged for the first time ever. Tina can sense Vore is hiding something she can't identify. Even worse, she feels a strange attraction to him. As Tina develops a special bond with Vore and discovers his true identity, she also realizes the truth about herself. Now, this one I definitely wouldn't say is a horror film. I would say this is more fantasy.
Yeah, it's
and
on
fantasy
Shudder
and
though.
folklore. Is it on Shudder? Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was on Shudder for you.
it's
It was
on
on
Shudder, so
it was on Hulu for me. But yeah, I found this one to be a very interesting film because it's because Tina is definitely not human. You can see that from the
yeah.
way she looks.
Yeah, like right away when you see this individual, you're like, and she has an extraordinary sense of smell. And right away we see that she's able to sniff out someone that's bringing in child pornography on
Yeah.
their phone. And she manages to get that kind of removed. And she lives with a guy who's kind of a dick. You find out that she can't have sex because she doesn't have a vagina or like a proper, not a proper, but like an actual vagina in order to have sexual intercourse, though she does have breasts.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole time I looked at her, I was like, so she must have been teased mercilessly when she was younger because she looks different. Like she just looks different. She has kind of like almost like an animalistic face of like a werewolf kind of thing.
I would say it almost reminded me of like caveman features.
Yes.
Same with Vore.
Props to the makeup, because if you see what this woman actually looks like in real life, and the gentleman that also played the other, so they're trolls. She's a troll, and Vore is a troll, and you see what the two of them look like. Like the makeup artist did a really good job because they don't look they look not like that
right.
at all, right? So it's really interesting because you kind of see her life go on. She meets Vore. Was it Vore?
Yeah, I think his name was Vore.
Vore. And basically through her interactions with him, she realizes that she's a troll and that trolls have been existing within the Swedish culture, but they have been tortured by humans and used for testing. And she was saved by her human father who raised her. And there's like a group of trolls that live in Finland, and she's living in Sweden right now, working as a customs officer. And she kind of gets pulled between these two worlds because she finds out that Vore is into infant trafficking of humans for sex, which is, by the way, very disgusting. That you have to realize that that's part of the subplot here.
Yeah,
infant pornography. You don't see anything, just
thankfully.
you don't. But it's implied, right? And Tina's sorry, go ahead.
I was like, because it gets more into that plot because when she finds that guy that has all those pictures on his phone, like the police get involved, obviously, and they start talking to her about how did you know? And she's like, I just kind of sense these things. And they're like, all right, well, we've looked into these pictures and that kind of leads to this area, and we kind of need your help to help kind of like sort out the big trafficking ring that is going on here.
Yeah.
And so the cops are using her and trying to help them try and investigate, and that's how she ends up finding out, because Vore is the one that's been, because you find out a lot of interesting things. So like you were saying about Tina not having a vagina, it's more like she has a vagina, but not your typical vagina, because when she gets aroused, a penis grows through her vagina.
Yeah.
And then you find out Vore, who looks male, has an actual vagina. And like gives birth to these changelings, like randomly.
Yes.
And I believe from what I gathered, it was giving birth to these, because I'm not sure what you would call it since it's a troll, but it would give birth to these changelings and would kidnap other people's human babies to put in these trafficking rings. And then I'm guessing would replace them with this changeling baby.
Yeah, it kind of reminds, and as we're talking about it, it reminds me very much of the one that we watched about Ireland, with the changeling.
Yes.
Right. So it is. I would say it's horror-ish. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying, Scott. Like, people could argue either way, but I think it's horror enough because you got the changeling and the troll, and human trafficking of babies is pretty fucking horrific. So, I think it's horror enough. But yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And you explain the whole vagina penis thing better than I did, because it's like a vagina, but it's not like what our knowledge would be. And their sex is very different than what human sex would be. Heterosexual human sex would be, of course.
Yeah.
So it was, and I read some reviews and some people were like weirded out by that. I don't think that sex scene was that weird. Like, I don't think it was graphic or weird at all. I thought it was like, oh, this is an interesting concept.
Yeah, I would say like I think the only thing I was weirded out by was just like the animalistic growling that they did. I'm like, that's kind of weird, but like it wasn't like, oh god, it's making me feel uncomfortable. No, it's just more like, well, this is something I didn't expect.
Right. And I thought, it's an interesting concept that trolls would be, anatomically different. And their interaction,
that is a great way to put it, anatomically different. Yes.
Right. And that their interactions are more animalistic. And the interesting thing about Tina is that she's caught between the human world and the troll world. So she does do a lot of human things, and it almost seems like Vore doesn't have a sense of consciousness or guilt.
Yeah.
Because there's neighbors that have a baby that Tina's friends with, and they're very kind to her and she's very kind to them, and that baby gets taken. And Bore does it, and he's met that baby. He went over there, saw those people, met that baby, and didn't think twice about having the baby killed or removed. So I feel like Tina actually has a level of what is right or wrong, and that's why she, betrays Vorhe and sets him up to get caught. Even though he doesn't get caught, he escapes because he's a fucking troll, and he can, like, literally, he's a troll. And I'm not like, he's a fucking troll. Like, no, he's a troll, and he can, like, get away with shit. Like, he's just able to escape. It's a really cool movie. It's a really, really fucking cool movie. I really enjoyed the relationship piece of this. I enjoyed watching Tina struggle between being raised as a human, knowing she was different, but knowing she doesn't fit with the troll lifestyle.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, because it seemed like the troll lifestyle was more like humans are bad.
Yeah. And
she realizes that there are good humans out there.
Well, and she's been raised by good humans, right?
Yeah.
She's been raised and she's had these interactions, and she's, treated with respect by her coworkers, and she's has these neighbors that are friends of hers. And eventually she ends up getting a baby. Eventually, a baby is sent to her from, I assume, Vore.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
Right. And she raises this little troll baby as her own. And it's a really well done film. Like, Thelma and Borderman, like, honestly, really both made me enjoy the relationships that were in this film and empathize for the main characters and the struggle that they were having internally. Like, both Thelma and Tina both struggle with different internal things. For Thelma, it's her seizures and her ability to make people disappear. And for Tina, it's the struggle between the troll world and the human world, and not sure exactly where she belongs. And, she does stand up to her. She kicks out that roommate that's a piece of shit, boyfriend or whatever the fuck he's supposed to be. And she really starts to stand up for herself. But yet she has a ethical code that she basically puts an end to a baby trafficking ring, which I don't think you can get any more fucked up than baby sexual human trafficking.
Yeah, it's so
wrong. A fucking trigger warning here, guys. Like, it's talked about a lot. So, Scott and I didn't know that going into this film. I know neither one of us did, because we went into this as a blind watch. So just as a warning to other people. But yeah, both of these films, strongly recommend, and I enjoyed the troll folklore in The Border.
Yeah, I found this to be, like, just very interesting. Once again, almost coming to terms with your identity.
Yeah, in both films, actually. Yeah.
And I found it to be done in a, like, very well respected way.
I agree with you. Yeah, these are high recommends. Excellently well acted, good makeup use, good films. Just both of them are burns, so be prepared to go in and that you got to invest in the characters. I found Border did move quicker. There was more going on, but it is a watch. So the final film we're going to talk about was actually a second watch for Scotty and I. We saw this film last year. We watched it actually together, virtually, because we couldn't get together last year in February of 2021. But I'll let Scott bring it in, and then we'll talk about it.
All right. So where the other movies had, you felt sympathy for characters and, like, what they were going through and their identities and all that stuff. That is not this movie. So this movie is called Red Dot, which was released February 11th, 2021, and I believe it is still on Netflix everywhere. But on a trip to rekindle their marriage, a young couple find themselves fleeing for their lives in the unforgiving wilderness as an unknown shooter hunts them down. So yeah, y'all may remember us talking about this film like in our What We Watched segment last year, like that it starts off kind of like your typical survival horror film where, like trapped out in the wilderness, being like hunted down and trying to just survive. And we're like, okay, this is kind of blah, nothing really great. And then there was a twist that happened, and we're going, oh shit, okay, this movie just caught my attention. Did it hold up on the second watch? Is a good question to ask.
It holds up. You just fucking hate the two main characters because you know what pieces of shit they are.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, man, I wish this would have happened to them earlier.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is a film where you do watch it the first time and you have a lot of empathy for the character because, there's a scene where it's a black woman and a white man, and they are at a gas station filling up, and they have this really awkward conversation with hunters. And the guy hits their car, which is now, when you've seen this movie before, you're like, yeah, this guy's just a piece of shit, the white guy. Right. And he pulls off without telling them that he scratches the car or whatever. And then they write something racial on their car when they catch up to the couple. And she freaks out and like, what does she do? Oh, she scratches their car.
Yeah, she keys the shit out of their car, like while they're right in front of her.
Like anyway. And so when you watch it the second time and you know the twist to this story, throughout the entire thing what pieces of shit they are
and what cowards they are.
Right. And even though I know Scott was a little more empathetic towards the female than I was, which I think is a good sign with Scotty, he's a much more patient, understanding person, I both thought they were pieces of shit. So let me explain why they were pieces of shit. So at the beginning of the film, they saw a graduation ceremony of the guy. His girlfriend's there, they're celebrating his graduation of engineering. He proposes to her, they get engaged. They're driving home, and she offers to give him a BJ while they're driving, or is working towards giving him a BJ. She undoes his pants and stuff like that. Well, I guess they hit some kid because he's distracted. He stops, she gets out, she looks, sees that the kid is dead, and they fucking take off. Oh, that's right, they fucking take off. And you see the dialogue between the two of them and him being like, we're just going to drive for a little bit. I just need to think about it. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, I just need to think about it. And they never come clean that they hit this kid. Yep. They continue to go on living their lives.
And you see that it's like tearing them apart as a couple because of it.
It's a
like, I mean, you can see like a lot of like, the issues there, like formed because of what happened. Whether, it doesn't make it right, obviously. It makes these people still pieces of shit. But you do see that it's affected them to an extent.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think what I saw a lot of, because what happens, the reason why you see it is because the father of the kid that is killed, the kid was chasing a drone. So the father has on video the people's car license plate number. So what the father does is he moves in across the street to where these people live and stages a meeting with them and builds this friendship with them and spies on them. So he sees them going out to restaurants. He sees them fighting in their apartment. He sees them being happy, being sad, all the different emotions that it goes through. And eventually she gets pregnant, confides in him because he's a friend that she's pregnant. And then he goes up to the guy who hasn't planned anything for their anniversary or whatever it is, and gives him this like weekend away at this resort. So everyone at this resort, all the people they interact with, is in on what they're going to do to these two, which is basically hunt them and scare them and torture them like they have been tortured for the past year of missing their son. So it's a very good film. But I found the second time watching it, I was like, you fucking pieces of shit. I'm glad you're getting tortured. Like, there's a part where their dog gets shot, and I don't like pet horror in any movie, but part of me is like, yeah, good, now you know some pain. Because the girl is bad. She's still a piece of shit. She should have come clean many a time. She should have called the cops. Mm-hmm. She should have done something. She never did, and she went on happy at times like nothing had ever happened. he is an asshole. And when he scratches at other people's car, you realize he's just a non-accountable piece of shit.
Yep.
And when it gets to the final scene when they're in that farmhouse and the father finally confronts them and they realize that this guy faked to be their friend, it's very emotional and powerful.
It is.
Right. And I will leave out the ending because in case people do watch this, it is a 2021. It is on Netflix. But it's a really, really like kind of serves you right. They get what's fucking coming to them. It's shocking the first time you see it. The second time you see it, you're like, yeah, fucking fuck these fuckers up. Like that's what
absolutely.
I found. I was just like, they deserve what they get. But it's a good little survival film. It's a good little thriller. It does have some good twists and turns to it. The acting is good because I hated the couple. So,
yeah,
they did exactly what they were supposed to do, which was have me hate them.
Yeah, because when I say I feel a little sympathy for the woman, and it's basically saying picking sides of the lesser of two evils, because they're still both pieces of shit for what they've done. Just the husband is the biggest piece of shit because of what he did, and what he continues to do, and he just doesn't see, he acts like he has sympathy, but he is such a fucking coward, and he does not come clean to what he did because. You don't want to ruin his little life. No.
I know. Yeah.
But it's like, no, fuck you. You got to take responsibility. You killed a fucking child on the road and just drove off. I could understand if it was you hit someone and before you guys even got out of the car and realized what happened, you kept driving because of shock. Okay, because that does happen. I know stories of that. But the way that they stopped and she got out of the car and she's like, this is what happened. And he's like, oh, we're going to keep driving. It's like, no. Oh, yeah. Fucking anger to the max with that guy. Like I say, I still don't like her either because like you said, she could have come clean at any fucking time.
She could have come clean at any point, but she chose not to.
Yep. So they both get what's coming to them, and that ending, I love that how that ends. It is just oh, that's dark, but it is so deserving.
It is super disturbing, and it has nothing really to do with Swedish culture. This could have been a North American film.
Yeah.
It could have been a United States.
I mean, hell, they acted like North Americans.
They did. It was honestly, it was no different. But I mean, for a free watch on Netflix, it was good enough. But I do think the other three are better, personally. But yeah, anything we want to add, or should we jump into our Out of the Dark?
No, I think this was just a fun little episode. There wasn't no ongoing theme with the Swedish films that I could tell this time around. It kind of reminded me of the variety that American films have.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was a lot of fun. I think Withered was a really good film. I think that's a good gore fest. I think none of them were shitty films, but I think some of them were more fun than others, and some of them, were more deeply acted than others or more horror than others. Overall, really fun little selection of films. So our Out of the Dark that we're going to talk about is what in horror movies can we not stand, or what horror movie annoys us? So I know we talked about tropes before, so I guess this is kind of similar. But Scott, is there anything that really, what is the most annoying horror movie when you think of a horror movie that's been made that really has bothered you?
All right, so there's one in particular that stood out when you brought this idea up, and it is Human Centipede Part 3.
Really?
Yes, because the Human Centipede films are fucked up. The first one's, not very violent, but gives basically plays on your imagination and what you can picture in your own head and fucks you up that way. Part 2, the director's like, oh, you didn't think the first one was showing enough? All right, well, fuck you then. I'm going to show you everything in a much more disturbed fashion, and it's going to be extremely uncomfortable. The third one, he just wanted to go, I think he called it, because I think he's a Dutch director, but he called it, I'm going American and going extra large. And so he wanted to do a 500-person human centipede, and it based in a prison. While he has returning actors, Dieter Laser, and I forget the guy's name from Part 2, but Dieter Laser is the fucked up doctor from the first movie. And oh my fucking God, I could not finish this movie. I turned it off halfway through because it just annoyed the piss.
You just couldn't do it.
No, and the reason is not because of what the movie was showing. It was because of Dieter Laser's acting. Because this guy was about pretty much at 150 all times. Every
Yeah.
line was yelled. It was
Yeah.
nonstop yelling, and it was so grating to my fucking ears that I was just like,
Yeah.
I can't do this. Like, if I put it on silent, okay, maybe I can do it and just watch subtitles. But like having that volume on and his screaming and just like yelling the whole fucking every line was literally screamed. And
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. And I turned it off. I've never finished it to this day because that annoyed the shit out of me so bad that I just couldn't do it.
I understand. I watched 2 movies recently that are super annoying, but the one that I actually find the most annoying is Prom Night 3, The Last Kiss. I find this movie just a pile of fucking trash. And here's the thing about this movie. There are highlights in it. The chick that plays Mary Lou, beautiful woman. The guy that plays her, Craig or whatever, not a bad looking dude. And some funny little jokes that she has, but it is like somebody sliced together all different scenes and put them in a movie. Nothing drives me more bonkers with a horror movie than when it can't decide what it wants to be. Is it a dark comedy? Is it supposed to be sci-fi? Are you trying to do a Nightmare on Elm Street theme? What the fuck are you trying to do? Like, there's a scene in Prom Night Last Kiss where he's playing the saxophone in bed. Can someone please tell me why the fuck this guy is playing the saxophone in bed and what that has to do with anything of this fucking movie's plot?
The saxophones are sexy.
Right? And he like fucks on the American flag, and she's giving out ice cream at one point in like the science lab before she kills the science teacher. And it's just such like at the beginning, she changes over into like she's a zombie. Like the Prom Night 2 ends on a fucking bang. Michael Ironside is possessed by Mary Lou. He says, "Let's ride, kids," and drives off in the car.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome ending. Nightmare on Elm Street inspired, but fucking awesome ending. Then we get Prom Night 3, which is the biggest piece of trash to come after it. That really fucking annoys me. You had something that could have been really good, and you put together this paint by numbers, cut into different, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like when a movie's made, Scott, and like it's literally like they cut and paste scenes that had no development to the story.
Yep.
Right? And that drives me absolutely crazy. The second thing that drives me crazy is movies like I Blame Society that came out last year. I cannot stand when the horror character, and this is just something that I don't enjoy, is like, I'm going to be evil and I'm going to do evil things and record myself doing it the entire time, but be likable. I find that something I just don't enjoy. The character irritates me. I don't like the outcome. And I felt the same way watching The Tragedy Girls. Now, The Tragedy Girls is a great film. I'll never take away from that. But I hate oh my God, we're chicks that are bad, but we're pretending to be good, and we're actually the killers, and then we're going to kill everybody at the end. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
It's just not. And it's not to say that it can't be other people's things. Obviously, there's stuff that I like in horror movies that other people aren't going to enjoy. I like heavy political messages. Not a lot of people like that in horror films. And that's absolutely fine. Absolutely, people are able to have different opinions. But that, for me, is my fucking bugaboo. I don't know how you feel about it in the movies I talked about, or if you're the same, or...
Yep, I definitely I like Tragedy Girls more, but I understand, like, the characters there. And, but yeah, Prom Night 3, oh God, that movie was just dumb, and it was basically like someone, like, read a brief synopsis that was written poorly about Prom Night 2, and said, okay, I got an idea of what movie now. I'm going to make a sequel to this, and not knowing anything about it, and I'm going to do it in a very half-assed way.
Yeah, like the kind of like where you put together scenes in a film, or where a film ends suddenly. So in Prom Night, the remake, it ends like they're like, oh no, the guy shot, it's done, the end. And even the first Prom Night does that. Like Jamie Lee Curtis is holding her brother, and it just ends. And I find when movies do that, it's so just like, oh, and it's over. I feel like either they forgot to write the rest of the film, or they didn't have enough money to finish the film. And it always throws me off. Like it drives me crazy when a film does that.
No, and see, I don't mind that, like where it like ends abruptly, because certain films do it and it's great. But yeah, certain films do it and it's not so great. Like the original Prom Night, I like how it ends like that.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, but like because I think what they're doing is making it so it's like, all right, we'll cut it here. Now there is no way to lead into a sequel. But then of course it was popular enough that someone came up with a sequel and just turned it into Nightmare on Elm Street in part 2. But
yeah,
that is the downside, is like when movies end abruptly like that and then people come back to try to make a sequel out of it, that gives them the ability to do whatever they please, and it usually does not go the right path. But there is one more thing. Like, this isn't like a dig at specifically a movie, but you're like, what in horror movies can we not stand? One thing I just thought of that I cannot stand is the fast-paced epileptic seizure type editing cuts, like what you see in Saw, and what Saw inspired after that, where it's just like cut, like into these weird like images. I do not like that weird erratic style editing. It like annoys the piss out of me.
Saw movies annoy the piss out of me.
Yeah,
actually, I find Saw one of the most annoying franchises ever. I think the first one was brilliant. I thought that was a really smart concept that they did. I thought the second one was okay, but when it starts to get to like the third and the fourth, and like whether John's dead or not, and who his wife is, and how she's involved, and Amanda is his protege, but then he has a second protege
and a third protege,
but yet he's still in contact with Gordon Lawrence, whatever it is from the first one. Like, to me, it just gets fucking ridiculous at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I think Saw is a movie that should have just been the first one.
Agreed.
I really do. I find, and yet again, if you like Saw and you enjoy those films, this is not a cut on you. You do you, enjoy your shit. Scott and I like stuff that you may not like. It's absolutely fine. We're talking about personal preferences here. I just find, and then the preachiness of the stuff he's upset about, like, I find the whole concept of the movie annoying. The whole concept of him killing people because they're not grateful for their lives in the first place, I find absolutely ridiculous. Always have, always will. The concept to me is crazy and dumb and overplayed, and then you get ripoffs like Blood in the Water that came out recently. And it's just, I don't know. I can't. If I'm real honest, the Saw movies annoy me. I feel like they're just preachy and fucking over the top. I don't like them.
Yeah, like I said, like you said, the first one, I liked it, and I liked that concept, like, for that first movie. But when they drag it out, but like, that first movie where he gets the preachiness and goes, there's a reason why you're here, blah, 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 and I'm going to play a game with you. I was like, okay, this guy's just really fucked up. Yeah. Okay, should have ended there. Should have continued.
And then it just gets so, and the problem with these movies, and every franchise does this, it gets extended, and the Hellraiser franchise did this too. If you had stuck to Hellraiser 1 and 2, it would have kept it to a pretty serious set of movies. Yeah. But as franchises continue, they get sillier, and they get sillier. So, like, if you look at the end of the Jason franchise, we have him going to fucking space, for God's sakes. Like, right. It gets really fucking ridiculous by that one. If we look at the Chucky ones, like, I feel like Chucky's done a swing back now and become more serious. But, like, the first one was really creepy. It was a fucking doll that came to life, and it was, like, playing on the whole Skipper thing. And then you get to a point where he's knocking up another doll, and they're having a baby, and, like, there's all this other shit happening. Like, you have the Halloween one where there's a fucking cult in Halloween 6, and, there's all this other nonsense. Like, it starts to get more and more complicated to keep the series interesting.
Yeah.
And I find that's where you always tend to, what do they say, jump the shark?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think Hellraiser, to me, is the best example of those two movies are fucking excellent.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you're not a huge fan of 2, but you gotta admit that is a great fucking sequel.
Like, oh, absolutely.
It plays into the first one so well. It's creepy. It's well done. By the time you get to, like, what is it? Hellraiser, I don't know. What's one of the most recent ones? Where, like, Doug Badley didn't even play in one of them. They had some other guy play.
Hellraiser, the last two were Hellraiser Revelations and then Hellraiser Judgment Day, I believe, or just Judgment. But yeah, both of those were played by someone that was not Doug Bradley.
Which is fine. You can have a new character, but then you're getting the most, like, comical one-liners. Like, they always seem to lean into comedy. Freddy did it too. Yeah. By the time you get to Freddy's Dead, it's basically a Looney Tune cartoon.
Hence why I liked Jason, because Jason doesn't speak, so there was the comedy ended up just being the victims.
Well, In Space was a huge comedy.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, but Jason wasn't the wisecracker. That's the part I was like, I hate Jason X, so.
Like it just gets, and here's the thing, like, and I'm not saying that you can't have a guilty pleasure for these movies. Like no one is shitting on these films. Like Scott and I have watched all these films. We enjoy them for what they are. But if we're real honest, like it's a shame that they take these franchises that start off being very serious and turn them into like a fucking gong show.
Yeah.
Get to like 8 or 9, they just get so fucking silly. Like I can't think, and occasionally they make a change with the remake. Child's Play to me is a prime example, and I'm gonna say it, the Friday the 13th remake as well were two very different remakes, very very good remakes. I think the Child's Play one was exceptional. I thought it was a way to modernize Chucky. I thought Mark Hamill did a great job as a voice.
Yeah, Mark Hamill. Oh yeah,
Hamill did a great job as a voice of Chucky. I thought the kid was good in it. Like it was a very good modern adaptation of that story. And it made Chucky scary again, because when I was watching the TV series with you, Chucky's scary in that fucking TV series.
Yeah.
Like he's not like he's funny. He makes jokes, but it's not to the same of like how silly it gets when he's having fucking babies and shit with Tiffany as a doll.
Right. Like he's got like the sadistic one-liners.
Yes. It's almost bringing it back to the scariness of what it was. Wes Craven did the same thing with A New Nightmare. He made Freddy scary again instead of like a comical joke.
Right. The one thing I will say about the Child's Play to Chucky franchise is like that is one thing I will give credit for is it is one of those franchises where like, yeah, we may have fucked up with like Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, but unlike all these other franchises that are going, we're going to make a sequel that like completely forgets those movies ever existed. No, Don Mancini just goes, nope, those movies existed. It's still part of this world. We will bring it in, but it's not going to be as dumb and ridiculous as it was before. Like
yeah,
it's not.
I agree.
I like that they're kind of like just like, no, we're not forgetting those movies existed. They happened. We're going to continue with it, and like we'll just work around it.
And I think that's also treating horror fans like they're not dumb.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's a really valid point that you're making, Scott, is that it's telling people that they're not dumb. One of the things that also, and this is my own personal thing, is people thinking all art house movies are good. Not all.
Some of them are a chore.
You know, and like, I'm sorry, the director cut of Midsommar is a long movie to watch. It is not to say that Midsommar is not a good film. It is a very, very good film. It is well made. It is well acted. That film is fucking long.
Yeah, I'll say it's
fucking film.
3 hours long, but like I guess it just depends on the person, because to me it didn't feel like 3 hours when I watched the director's cut. Like, and I liked the little bit that was added to it, because most director's cuts feel pointless with what they added. With this one, it felt like there was like what was brought back into the movie like still worked.
And here's the thing, as we've always talked about, Scott, and what we talk about in this podcast a lot, is personal perspective. Mm-hmm. I am not going to tell you that your opinion is wrong. I'm not insecure and a dick, but also that's what your opinion is. I found it long and exhausting. You didn't. That's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's completely okay. And I just like, I don't like one movie that was a slow burn that I did not enjoy was Black Coat's Daughter. I did not enjoy that movie at all. I found that a fucking chore to watch. I found it boring. I did not like it at all, but I know how much you appreciate that film, right? So for me, and when we talk about what horror movies annoy us, it's again a personal preference.
Right.
You know, I love Us by Jordan Peele. There's people that probably are like, shut the fuck up, Jordan Peele. You know, Us is boring, it's stupid, the voice sounds dumb. You know, how did all these people live in this underground world that nobody knows about? Blah, 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 blah. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. That can totally be your opinion. Like, it is 100% okay if that's the way you feel about Us. Not every movie is going to connect with every single horror fan. And what annoys one person can be another person's joy.
Exactly.
Right? And I feel like that's where this Out of the Dark topic comes from, is we're having just conversations on what is your experience with a film? What is my experience with a film? And what are other people's experiences of films that don't match together? Except for Prom Night 3 Last Kiss. We can all agree.
Yeah. Oh, God.
There are certain films where, yes, everyone can agree that it's a big piece of shit.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right? And then there's other films where it's going to be up to perspective, where it's going to be up to, you know, but I find myself when something's a very, very long story, like Thelma, I probably wouldn't watch again. because it was a long, drawn out story for me. Doesn't mean it's bad, just means it's probably something that I would not watch again.
Right. Nope, I completely agree. Like, it was a good one-time watch.
Right. Anything you wanted to add for what we can't stand or what annoys us?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. I was like, yeah, there was only a few things I wanted to really bring up that, yeah, personally annoyed me, and I did. So
awesome. Well, and you annoy me too. So
and you annoy me. That's why
I'm
we're
just
here.
kidding. You not watching horror like 2022 movies, that annoys me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna continue that. Just poke, poke, poke.
All right, to just continue, so I'm doing the heavy work.
Exactly.
So that ends our episode for today. Thank you so much for joining us and for being here. We are proud members of the Legion Podcast Network. You can download Legion on any of the sharing services that you have. And actually, Amber won a streaming code. My friend Amber won a streaming code from Legion Podcast Network. So if you are a Patreon for Legion Podcast Network, you also can win streaming codes. So if you are not a member of Legion Patreon,
there's something I'm supposed to say right here. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Please join Legion Patreon today. It's only about $3 a month, and you get access to tons of different shows. I don't know. Maybe one day Scotty and I will do a top 5 again if I can ever get his ass in gear. I will say that as we finish off our Horror of the Worlds, because we probably have like, I don't know, maybe 6 more episodes that we'll do of this kind of theme, maybe less. We will be switching our show format up a bit more just to keep it a little shorter. So we may have time to do top 5s here and there.
Yeah.
Because we should go back to contributing something to Patreon.
Okay.
But yeah, as always, thanks so much for supporting us. I'm not sure which country we want to do next. Did you have a country in mind, Scotty?
I am thinking Norwegian horror.
Norwegian. Okay.
I have already found quite a few good movies, or ones that I've heard that are good that we could do.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for that. So we'll be moving into some Norwegian horror and also continuing to ham it out those 2022s like a boss. And, if you haven't had a chance to check out previews, or you do watch previews, watch Don't Worry, Darling. I think Don't You Worry, Darling. Is that how it is? Let me see here.
I've never even heard of this one until you brought it up.
It's coming out with Florence Pugh. Don't Worry, Darling. It's going to be released later on this summer, and it's a psychological thriller / horror. Release date is September 23rd in 2022. It's directed by Olivia Wilde. It stars Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Olivia Wilde, Gemma Chan, Kiki Laney, Nick Kroll, Chris Pine. We're talking about a set fucking cast. There's also one about a lion that's called Beast that's going to be coming out this summer as well. Let me just pull up that one here. It's about a killer lion it just says South Africa. They traveled to a game reserve. This will be released August 19th. It looks like a pretty fun little creature feature. So I think that will be something to watch out for as well too. And of course, we also have Nope coming out with Jordan Peele as well. We have Halloween Ends this year as well. So I think we have some good sleeper hits still to come that people will be able to enjoy, and some good 2022s that we can talk about as we work towards our end of year list.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So I guess if that's it, then what do we have to say to the good people, Scotty?
All right. Well, once again, thank you all for listening and joining us on this journey. It is always fun kind of talking about this stuff and going through all the movies that we do. So until next time, kiddies, unpleasant dreams.
See ya.